That's funny.
Right. So yeah, back when Bitcoin was here, I was expecting a drop down to this zone, but it didn't happen. It rallied prematurely after getting into this demand zone over here. But now it got rejected by the 50 fib, and now we're heading down. I'm expecting it to sweep the lows here and then tag this zone here, which is on the, it is perfect on the 4 hour. Yep. So I'm expecting to tag this level, which is 32, almost 32K, swing here and then go higher. These are the intermediate levels that I'm looking at. Where Bitcoin could stop, consolidate, and then move higher. So I want to build a long position down here uh, and compound it at these levels, or like a retracement from these levels, right? So the range high. So what I'm looking at, so the first thing was we formed a range low here, which was the May 19th, and then we formed a range high. We swept the range low here. So the next logical place we would go is the range high, right? So we might find a lot of consolidation in this zone over here because of all the tops here, but eventually we're going to get here. Apart from this, I'm looking at 43,589. Nothing major here. Based on the global global map, these are the resistance levels, and it kind of falls perfectly into what I'm looking at here, a dip into this zone. So
there is a lot of support right there between 28,000 and 32,000 based on the
yep,
IO map.
yep. There's a lot of support here, right? And these two are major zones from like a real long-term perspective. If we just look at it here, yeah, these two zones, which has 2.15 and 2.2, and this is what I'm looking at. But this is the last zone that I've marked out on my screen, but this extends all the way up to 10,290, right? So another interesting thing I wanted to point out is that your upside target kind of falls somewhere over here in this zone, but the downside target, which is 15K, it is very similar to what we had, what we were looking at during the head and shoulders pattern for Bitcoin. So
Indeed.
it's an interesting confluence.
Indeed. So is there any indication from a short-term perspective, like any indicator or anything that is telling you that we're gonna get that rebound from 32K? Or just like kind of like the market sentiment, or because like right now, I mean, if you could call the data like a bearish engulfing candle that potentially usually leads to further downswing, right?
So my reasoning on why it's going to go this lower is this rally up here. We have a lot of long buy stops, sorry, sell stops over here, and we haven't swept that. So the reason why I expected it to come down here during this retracement is I wanted to sweep the lows here, right? It did not. It prematurely went up, right? So there are people who longed here, have the buy stops here, sorry, sell stops here, and the same thing over here, right? So this area is like a liquidity pool that the market makers are going to be looking at. So generally, for the uptrend to have a lot of oomph to it, I want it to come down to this level. And interestingly, it coincides with this the bearish order block, the bullish order block on this down candle, right? So the confluence is too much for me to ignore, right? So I'm expecting this, right? Just to be on the safer side, I want a long here and set my stop losses over here and compound on these levels.
I see. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, basically a downswing before further highs. Like, yeah, there's a couple of other on-chain metrics, like some whales have been buying, kind of like the constant manipulation that you usually see around the GBTC unlockings, kind of like tell you a similar behavior that is supposed to happen, right? But yeah, I believe that the buying pressure, you can see it actually on the other one. No, like scroll down, please. Yeah, on this one, and then if you go from basically, I was talking to these people from what do you call this, from sentiment. Yeah, and they actually told me that we should merge the one from 100 all the way to 10,000. I mean, yeah, to 10,000. So merge those two. Exactly. No, one exactly. No.
Should I remove
100
this?
to 10,000. Yeah, to 10,000 actually. I believe it was 10,000 or 100,000. Let me check real quick. But basically, they said that they have been testing these brackets of Bitcoin wells for a little while, and according to them, is the most correlated to prices. So, but yeah, let me check real quick. Yeah, it's actually 100 to 10K. So
Okay.
exactly. So based on what they have been telling me, right, this one is the most correlated to prices, right? And that significant upswing that we saw right there recently
Yeah.
tells them that there is something brewing behind the scenes, right? When I didn't know how to take this at the beginning, but
Mhm.
now that the news comes today that basically the GBTC unlocking is happening within 2 to 3 weeks, now it tells me kind of like what whales want to do, right? I mean, they want to
Yeah.
push prices higher, right? So that whenever their GBTC have been unlocked, basically they can basically double profit, right? Profit
Yeah.
on bringing the market up right now, right, from this $32,000 low, and profit from the coins that they basically bought in January. So
I think they're still in profit. I
also,
mean, I'm not sure though, but
I believe Bitcoin was if I'm not mistaken, Bitcoin was trading at around, I mean,
30K.
it opened the year. Yeah, exactly. It opened the year with 30K. So, I mean, with 28,000, right?
Yeah.
So they definitely want to profit a little bit, right?
Mm.
Before their unlocking period comes into fruition. But yeah, that's basically what I was saying. I don't know, Sheldon, if you have anything else on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I just have a couple of things to say. One is see
You,
here
you
if I
can share
can.
your screen, by the way.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that here. There, it should be good. One of the things is this was based on the data from Coinbase base. This was the third worst quarter we at 40,000 or 40% loss. You go back to 2018, the first quarter of 2018, you had a loss of 50%. And the next two quarters were basically sideways. One was a loss of about 8%, and the next one was a gain of about 4%. Then you had another 44% decline, and then you had a 11% consolidation. So based on that precedent, I think investors need to be open to the possibility that this could really do nothing for the quarter or 2 quarters if you go back to the beginning of 2018. So it's something to consider. And then on the weekly, really,
That's really interesting to see, Sheldon. If you go back to it, right? Because basically then for the next 2 quarters, so then you're potentially, I mean, if we're to repeat, right, like what we saw right there between 2017, I mean 2018, right, 2019, where you have like those 2 quarters of consolidation and then the big drop, right? That kind of like gives you like a big drop by December, right? Something like that. If
yeah.
that were to repeat, right? And based on the correlation that I was speaking about earlier, right? Kind of like the maximum amount of time that it will take for that final drop to come down based on that analysis was basically 279 days, right? Which will give me a potential drop by around December 20th. So it's kind of interesting to see that you're kind of like looking at something similar as well. But yeah, just continue.
And then I dropped down to the weekly, and really it's the 50-week simple moving average that's critical here on the downside. It coincides with the head and shoulders neckline that we saw, and of course the psychologically important 30,000. So we got to be looking for a weekly closes below, let's say below 30,000 as a tip off that we're going to go lower. And then once you move kind of to the daily, once again, what really stands out is, of course, this area up here, from about 43,500 down to 41,500 is the major resistance level. Here you have a rising wedge. It's not an official one simply because it retraced more than 50% of this, but nevertheless, it is shaping that pattern. And today it's hugging it after coming down to it there. And you have the anchored VWAP coming in here at 37,700. So, and you'll see here 35,500 in that area has also been either support or resistance. So at the end of the day, really one of the things that I would encourage is that investors be prepared for some type of consolidation within the 55 or 50-week simple moving average and this resistance from 41,000 to 43,500. There could be swings in here. It's a great opportunity for traders. You definitely can scalp 10,000 points either way from the short or long side, but we should also have the mindset that this could actually take a long time, because I think one of the things in cryptocurrencies that you begin to learn is that things happen very quickly, and like you have big gains or you have big losses, and then you get accustomed to that. You get it ingrained where you're thinking, okay, we have to have a big rebound or we need to have another big decline. And the third alternative is, as shown in 2018, is that we could actually just go sideways within a range.
Indeed. Yeah, like 2018 was a killer, you know. After all big gains, everybody got accustomed to big gains, and then that consolidation period like killed a bunch of people.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I don't have more to
so really
say,
interesting to see. So basically, you may see, of course, like right there, you're kind of like drawing a little bit of a wedge, right? I would
Yeah.
say. So
Yeah.
you could potentially see, of course, a break of the rising trend line. Could potentially see it drop back to around 30,000, right?
Yeah, it goes
But
slightly underneath there. Yeah, the low.
slightly underneath. Okay. But if we basically close above 35K, the 50-day moving average and the anchor VWAP, then you're looking at a potential upswing to that $43,000 resistance level that we have all been talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, your TA basically coincides with what we're all seeing, right? What we're seeing is kind of like a period of, I mean, all of this is consolidation, literally. Like if it goes back up to $43,000, I mean, it's still consolidating, right? It's been stuck within this range, within the $30,000 to $48,000 range since basically May 17th, right? So it's just part of the whole consolidation. But yeah, I also believe that if it's not by October, maybe by December we could have like a big potential drop. But I think the market makers need to get people excited. So a potential upswing to 43,000, maybe 48,000 to get everybody really excited, right? Could be great to then like basically liquidate everybody, reset the market structure and then go back up, But really interesting to see now that you're sharing